There is a common consensus that the current state of America's infrastructure is insufficient. The American Society of Civil Engineers, or ASCE, infrastructure grading system has recognized the poor condition of the roads and bridges for years, without seeing much improvement. The crux of the issue is where to acquire the necessary funds to update and fix what needs to be done. While this presentation focuses specifically on the conditions of the roads and bridges, it is important to note the complexity of the situation. Decision-making is often at a standstill due to the need to communicate and coordinate between public entities and private entities at national, state, and local scales. While the federal government holds strong regulatory power, much of where the rubber meets the asphalt happens at the local and state level. These sectors provide most of the spending and are more responsible for maintaining the quality of their infrastructure with regulatory support from the government. There is a need to focus on clear and specific solutions rather than pass along the torch, hoping someone will step up. Our first task is to examine who the participants are in this situation. We noted who we thought were the key participants: the American government and politicians, the American citizens or commuters, and the construction companies. Next, we evaluated the exogenous variables of the IAD framework, the first being the biophysical context of this particular situation. We can see that the people may seek to have the federal government take sole responsibility to remedy the infrastructure issue on their own funding. However, there is no way that the federal government will be able to pay the entire sum for the estimated $420 billion deficit needed to repair existing highways. On a more geographical and fiscal note, there may be a desire to implement one general plan to all states and regions. However, every region has different environments, including terrain and climate, that affect the rate of degradation and erosion of the roads and bridges. The subsequent step is to understand the attributes of the community. American politicians may seek to scrape by with the minimum effort possible. While laws are being passed to pour funding into infrastructure, resolving the issues of cooperation is often forgotten. Politicians become blinded to possible solutions for the sake of supporting a position that ensures their seat in office. Rather than make decisions that are difficult but effective, politicians value maintaining their status quo over what needs to be done. American citizens or commuters are not the completely selfish individuals many assume. They are, however, very set in their ways and adverse to change. Raising the federal motor fuels taxes or implementing a mileage tracking tax would cause a lot of frustration and discontent among citizens. They do value personal safety above all else. If framed properly, a proposal to repair the infrastructure for the sake of personal safety and saving the American taxpayer money would be enough to garner some support. The construction company individuals suffer alongside the regular citizens, but also see many more benefits from an infrastructure system constantly in need of repairs. They see this as job security, as they will be those contracted for the repairs. Finally, we move on to the outcomes of this situation. We found two potential outcomes, one being the successful repairs of the infrastructure, and the second being the outcome of maintaining the status quo. Our first outcome would require the participation of all sectors of government to find appropriate funding, while also informing the citizens and garnering their support. Also, rather than solely focusing on finding appropriate funding, it would be important to implement better management and maintenance strategies, such as designating freight trucks, who are often responsible for the rapid degradation of the right lanes on interstate highways, to navigate designated routes, which may ease traffic and minimize large-scale collisions. Those who would benefit would be all commuters. American citizens would be satisfied with their increased safety. Construction companies would find a temporary business boom while the system is repaired and changed. Those who would see the costs would include the politicians, who may see initial discontent with their voters, citizens who may lash out against raised taxes, construction companies who would worry about future job security in the transportation sector, and external participants like those in the tire industry or even the freight industry. The second outcome would occur when commuters relinquish themselves to the decisions made by their governments. The decision makers maintain their status quo and only pass the minimum effort to manage the most severely deteriorated infrastructure, as well as a failure to implement new and specific strategies to the transportation systems to minimize the rate of deterioration of the roads. Those who would benefit would include the construction companies, who no longer have to worry about job security in the sector, politicians who do not need to worry about citizen backlash, American citizens who do not need to worry about raised taxes. The freight industry would also maintain their status quo, and external participants, like those in the tire industry, will continue to make money off of poor road conditions. Those who would see costs would include all of the American citizens and all commuters. extending to all participants who would continue to lose money from vehicle maintenance and would continue to suffer from poor road and bridge safety conditions.